وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises belonging to Allah Azza wa Jal, and may the peace and blessings be upon His beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and upon his family and companions in entirety. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal on this blessed day of Friday to make us of those who invest their time and effort, their thought, into those things in our lives that will have the deepest impact on our status in the akhirah, on our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, on our relationship with others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who take advantage of their dunya for their akhirah and meet Allah Azza wa Jal and He's pleased with us. Allahumma ameen. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us that anything worthwhile in life needs to be approached with some thought, some strategy, some care, or else it won't produce its fruits. And this is something that we learn through how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed the universe around us, with clear procedure, with clear process, with clear beginning and end, with clear markers that guide people along the way. And the Prophet ﷺ teaches us the same attitude to everything that's worth considering. كل أمر ذي بال لا يبدأ ببسم الله فهو أبتر. This is manhaj hayah. Whenever I start in anything that's worthwhile, I'm mindful of Allah. Bismillah. Bismillah. And when it comes to the things that are in my life that I will give this worth, I need to realize the same in terms of the outcomes that they'll produce. Meaning that if my soul matters to me, I need to strategically plan how I'll invest in my soul. Just as, because my money means a whole lot to me, I provide a great deal of timeshare as to how I'm going to make more and how I'm going to spend it. I really care about every dollar coming in and coming out and where it's going. I really care about certain things in my life, so I give them their focus. And the believer has that same attitude towards spiritual planning. Just as you have financial planning, you have spiritual planning. When Allah Azza wa Jal gives me opportunities in my life, I should seize them, or else I'll be cheated out of them. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ tells us. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. There are two blessings that people are, and the Prophet ﷺ uses the word cheated out of. They are cheated out of these two things. Meaning that just as I am supposed to be providing some thought into these two blessings that affect a whole lot of other things, the shaitan on the other end is providing a whole lot of thought into how he could corrupt these elements for me in my life. Two blessings people are cheated out of. Sihha, good health, and the opportunity they have with their good health. And faragh, free time. Free time. One of the greatest opportunities to build could also become one of the greatest sources of ruin. That's the waqi', that's the reality. Faragh, free time, can either make a person or break them. And the reason why this reflection is so critical now is because we're starting to see our children attending Jumu'ah again between this Friday and next Friday. We're entering upon a time frame that has a lot more free time in it for them and even for families in general, where I'm able as a mother, as a father, to interact with my son or daughter a whole lot more. I need to give thought to how I'm going to take advantage of this time. I need to learn from how the Prophet ﷺ utilized his interactions with those around him to build them up. The Prophet ﷺ, one of the aspects of his brilliance was that he made everyone around him feel a great deal of self-worth. Self-worth. Maybe that's something my son or daughter needs. Maybe that's something I need. Maybe I need to realize my self-worth. The Prophet ﷺ saw a young boy, the brother of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, who was crying over his dead bird. And he came to him and he said to him, Ya Aba Umayr, ma fa'ala al-nughayr? What's going on? Why are you sad? Why are you distraught? Prophet ﷺ teaching us brilliance through this interaction with this young person. Realizing what matters to him and making this young person feels that he cares. Making this young person realize that he matters. I need to treat my life as though it matters. Because life is precious and life is a ni'mah. I need to make sure that my son and my daughter, as we're going into summer, realizes how precious life is. Because often it's taken away from people for senseless reasons. Senseless reasons it's taken away from them at a young age. Sometimes it's corrupt companionship. Sometimes it's getting hooked on some type of drug or going down some toxic path that ends up destroying the person. I need to make sure that I take this example from the Prophet ﷺ. How can I elevate the outlook of those around me on life? Prophet ﷺ was brilliant in doing this. Elevate the outlook. Meaning that training my son or daughter, training myself to look at life more than what is right in front of my eyes. There's something behind it. There's a greater calling. We all know the hadith of Ibn Abbas that we often repeat on our manabir and in our durus, the hadith of Ibn Abbas when the Prophet ﷺ looked at his very, very, very younger cousin. And he told him, Ya ghulam inni u'allimuka kalimat. I teach you words of life, words of wisdom. And in these words you see that the Prophet ﷺ elevated the thought process of Ibn Abbas. Respect the boundaries of Allah. احفظ الله يحفظك. Have trust in Allah. احفظ الله تجده تجاهك. And know that no matter what causes you concern in your life or fear, that there is a way beyond that fear. There's a way to manage it. And so on and so forth from the many lessons that the Prophet ﷺ taught Ibn Abbas and many other young companions around him, and in fact this entire generation altogether, elevating the outlook. My life is more than just desire, enjoyment, pleasure. If that's something that settles in the heart of a young person, you'll find that they'll begin to function in a way that's very refined. A function in a way that saves them from a whole lot of... Look in this other hadith. The Prophet ﷺ teaches all of us to think in this manner. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us, hey look, realize that there's something called missed opportunities. And you don't want to feel regret because of a missed opportunity. اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس. Take advantage of 5 before 5. Speaking in this manner to those around us and thinking in this manner, realize that what you have is not going to stay. Take advantage of 5 before 5. Your young age, because that's not going to stay forever. Your old age is going to settle in. Even if you don't realize that your health before your illness and your youth before your old age and your free time before you're consumed with many other things and your life before your death, because none of this is really going to last. Having these types of conversations is what made the youth of the Prophet ﷺ special. As we're approaching summer, we all collectively want to feel this and make sure that our youth feel this very, very, very much. That youth is a very special age for certain factors and certain reasons. And if I miss out on these, then my youth is not going to be really very beneficial to me. Why were the youth around the companions so profound? Why were they the first followers? We know that. And when we say youth, we're not talking about just teenagers. The Prophet ﷺ, his first supporters were the younger age demographics. The oldest among them, who was most renowned in the early days of Islam, was Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And we know that he was younger than the Prophet ﷺ. He was in his 30s when he became Muslim. He was 38, and they say Sayyidina Umar was 10 years younger, in his late 20s when he became Muslim. We know that this early generation among the companions were from this younger demographic. Why? Why were they special? Because of a willingness to accept advice. Because of a willingness to change. And whenever, life shows us this is again elevating the discourse, elevating my understandings and my sensibilities. These are universals in life. Whenever a person follows a path that's characterized by unwillingness to change, that's going to be the source of his ruin. I don't want to accept advice. I'm beyond advice. I'm not going to change. I have it all figured out. The Quran tells us about these individuals. إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ وَإِنَّا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Youth, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, was special because of a willingness to accept advice. Because we as human beings grow through experience. And it's obvious that someone in their younger years is going to lack experience. And someone with a great deal of wisdom will realize this and say, you know what? I'm going to be honest with myself. Maybe I need to be mentored. Maybe I need to learn. Maybe I need to humble myself and realize that I don't have everything figured out in my life. Maybe I need to focus on really building up those aspects of my life that are going to be really meaningful all across the board. Maybe I need to become a carrier of a message. Youth was always special in our Islamic tradition because the youth were carriers of messages. We know this about Fityatul Kahf, right? إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. What message am I carrying? A question for every young person, a question for every one of us actually. But especially our young people, especially as we're going into summer. Because brothers and sisters, really, the summer could be maximized to benefit, or it could really maximize to destroy. This, for many people, this summer might be a fork in the road. I'm either going to go in a direction that either builds me up or brings me down. And this is the realities in our community that are unfolding. What message am I carrying? What am I living for? Is it me, myself, and I? I as a parent, am I amplifying the self for my son or daughter? What aspect of their life is not about them? Maybe that's something to think about as we're going into the summer. You know, if the summer is going to look like, hey, you know what, 5-6 hours a day on video games and 2 or 3 more on Netflix, guess what? I've allowed my son or daughter to amplify the self in the most destructive way possible. Am I amplifying the self, meaning I'm allowing my son or daughter to shape their life as a very self-centered person? That's a big problem in society today. It's going to end up affecting the way they deal with everything in life, the way they deal with their job in the future, the way they deal with their marriage in the future, as a husband, as a wife, and as a mother and as a father. Because these things don't only affect youth, they affect every age bracket in different ways as our responsibilities grow. There's this idea of sacred manhood. What is that? Futuwa. What is futuwa? What is rujula? What is shahama? What is being a person of integrity, and how does that affect someone when they're not a person of integrity? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman in the spiritual lens in our Islamic tradition? What does that mean, those unique responsibilities that Allah Azza wa Jal has put on our shoulders? Am I raising my son, am I raising my daughter in a way that will enable them, when they become independent, to actually carry those responsibilities? What are the struggles in society today? What are the struggles in society today? We see some foundational things. Like what? Like lack of commitment. How does this affect people? It's affecting our marriages in a great deal. People quick to divorce. Lack of commitment. How is it affecting our society today? Lack of commitment to friendships. Lack of commitment to jobs, to work. This is something that's become characteristic of our society today. Once I see problems, I'm going to run the other way. I'm not going to stick through it. This is not, of course, to generalize. This is not everybody that falls into this. But these are things that are having a deep impact in society altogether. Lack of commitment, lack of patience, lack of willingness to sacrifice, lack of self-control, right? And because if I program myself to fulfill its every desire, then how am I going to be able to contain myself in the situations I need it most? When would I need self-control? When would I need self-control? When I have a desire right before my eyes and I don't have the spiritual will to keep myself from diving deep into it. When would I need self-control? When My rage takes a grip on me and makes me do things that I'll regret for the rest of my life. Say words that end up severing ties or causing irreversible damage to relationships. Self-control, this is one of those foundational things. Loss of how can I really build my son or daughter to be a person of integrity? That's going to affect them in their work tomorrow. Are they going to be honest? Are they going to be a people of amana and trustworthiness? Are they going to be committed to their values and their principles? Or are they going to buckle as soon as their principles are put to the test? These are the struggles. Misconceptions on the issue of power. What does it mean to be powerful? Is it something very physical, something maddi, or is it actually something much more spiritual and rooted in emotions, emotional strength, spiritual strength? What's power? How do I perceive power to be applied in different situations? Those are the struggles. What's the impact? What's the impact of these things? These things, when they're not found in our youth or they're not found in us as individuals, what happens? All of these things contribute to the big mental health crisis that we're having today. Big mental health crisis that we're having today. Because a lot of the things in this mental health crisis are coming about because of behavior, are coming about because of what people are getting exposed to, their lifestyles, not coming about because of some medical or some chemical imbalance in their bodies. That's possible too, but that's something that's out of our hands. That's a test from Allah. Sometimes people are tested with certain chemical imbalances that are not in their hand. And they might need treatment for that, or they will need treatment for that. But a lot of this crisis that we're facing today is augmented because of lifestyle, right? Because my son or daughter has been trained to isolate themselves. Isolate themselves with what? Their computer, their phone, Netflix, or other live streaming. Video games, all of this. Toxic stuff that ends up contributing to a personality that's very antisocial, a personality that's very selfish, a personality that lacks responsibility, and a personality that will not be able to truly be a leader, not for their family and not for society. This is the struggle. Struggles with friendship. We've seen it too many times. That a person who's in themselves innocent, good, especially if you work in schools, Islamic schools or public schools or other, you'll see this very clearly. Sometimes, many times you'll see someone who's very good in themselves. Nothing wrong with them. They're innocent human beings. But then life takes them down a very, very, very bad direction because of toxic companionship. It's a reality. It's a reality. As we're going into the summer, I want every young person, I see a lot of young faces, and they're all going to be with us next week and the weeks after that. Think about this. What does my companionship look like? What is it leading to? Is it leading to good things, positive things, constructive things, serving society, serving family, serving the needs of my soul? Is it coming with a sense of value of time, or is it all wasted away with no good effect at all on a person's life? What's the impact? Inconsistency in work, deterioration of marriage. If I want to build a good husband, build a good wife, that doesn't start when the person reaches the age of marriage, in their 20s or in their, no way. This starts when the person's very young in their initial stages of development, as they're transitioning into their teens. Those values that I'm instilling in my son or my daughter are going to end up affecting their marriage 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. What's the opportunity? We talked about the struggle, the impact. What's the opportunity? What's the opportunity that we have with our children, with ourselves, as Allah Azza wa Jal allows us a breadth of time to make certain differences in our life while we're here? Maybe I need to engender a sense of responsibility. How can I do that? Maybe I need to really get my son or daughter invested in some type of service. Selfless service, not job. The job is good. Get them in a job. Yeah, let them earn their own money. That's fine. But maybe they need to also be invested in some selfless service. Maybe they need to learn to give back to society. Maybe they need to be exposed to seeing those people who aren't as entitled as them, because this is one of the biggest problems that we have as youth growing up in a very, very entitled society compared to the rest of the world. Our standard here is not the standard of the rest of the world. Maybe I need to do away with toxic entitlement from my son or daughter's life. How can I do that? How can I engender in them a sense of responsibility? Maybe I need to broaden the horizons of what they're exposed to. Khalas, most of their day is exposed to is what? Their whole school. You think about this. Think about how it's affecting the psyche of my child. When their whole day is spent what? On information. And they're focused on themselves, on themselves, on themselves. I need to finish my assignments. I need to go to these classes. And I need to eat. And I need to sleep. And I need to play. And I need to have fun. What part of this equation relates to broadening the horizons? I need to make that effort as a mother, as a father. I need to make that effort on an individual level. What do you mean by broadening the horizons? Our deen teaches us this idea of al-wajibat al-khams. I have a duty to Allah. What does that mean? I have a duty to my deen. What does that even look like? What does that even look like, a duty to my deen? I don't even know what that means, perhaps. I need to think about this. What duty do I owe my nafs? Maybe that's a discussion in itself. What duty do I owe my family? Do I owe my family anything at all? If I'm a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old or whatever, and I don't have any conceptualization of what it means to have a duty to my family, there's a huge problem. There's a huge problem in my thought process if I don't think I owe anything to my family after living in this dunya for 17, 18, 19, 20 years. And that is the reality of some people in the way they operate. It's a very scary way to operate as a human being. For me to think that I could continue to take, and I don't have to give anything back. That's exactly, essentially, what it means. If I, as a young person, I'm 20 years old, I've been built up to this point somehow in my life, and I don't think I owe a single responsibility to anyone around me. That's a musibah. That is a calamity. Duty to family, what does that mean? Duty to my ummah. What is ummah? What is community? Does community matter? I need to build within myself and within my children this idea that community matters. Why does it matter? These need a lot of discussions. They all contribute to this idea of what it really means to be a functional believer in a society. As a man, a true man, and as a woman, a true woman. Brothers and sisters, I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us understanding and give us wisdom and allow us to take advantage of the opportunity that we have to raise within our children those values that will help them for the rest of their lives. I need to think as a mother, as a father, that if I was to go today or tomorrow, and I'm going to leave my son or my daughter behind, what's their iman going to look like from my grave? Are they going to be able to carry on in this dunya as a good mu'min or as a good mu'minah? Am I going to meet Allah having done my responsibility or not? Am I going to meet Allah Azza wa Jal having done my responsibility, or am I going to go to my grave with a great sense of sorrow, having not given the care and attention to really give tarbiyah to my son or daughter? That's really the question at the beginning of this summer. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us tawfiq. Wa du'allahu wa antum muqinuna bil ijabah. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, if I'm really going to do some spiritual planning for this summer, I need to be aware of a few different factors. First off, I need to create a list of opportunities. And secondly, I need to be aware of a list of common contributors to ruin. What is negatively affecting me or my son or my daughter? What is it? Lack of awareness of Islamic values? That's definitely there. Lack of awareness of Islamic, but what does Allah want from me? I don't know that. Loss of good support. Is there any sense of companionship in my son or daughter's life that's positive? Am I a companion for my son or daughter? Do I have good companionship in my life as an adult? Again, these questions, each one of us is going to ask themselves this question in their own unique way. Desires running wild. That's another contributor, common contributor to ruin. External toxic influencers, like companionship, like drugs. Toxic use of technology. A lot of free time, brothers and sisters, with technology. Look what our scholars teach us from the past about these two. If you don't consume yourself with good things, it'll consume you with bad. This is something that my son or daughter needs to have on their wall, in their room, to remind them every single day, hey, look at this, every single day. If you don't consume yourself with good things, it will consume you with the worst things in life. Because the stories all go back to these universals. لا تصحب من لا ينهض بك حاله ولا يدلك على الله مقاله. Another principle that affects a host of things. Don't associate yourself with someone who's not really going to raise you up. And someone who really doesn't point you back to Allah Azza wa Jal. Don't do it. Because that is the starting line of 1,000+ stories that have all ended in a great deal of regret. Brothers and sisters, accessibility to haram. Accessibility to haram. How accessible is haram to my son or daughter? Do I isolate myself with all the things that could lead to my detriment? That's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to have free reign in these regards for anybody. I need to realize that proximity to haram will inevitably lead to damaging effects on me as a person. Brothers and sisters, what approach am I taking with tarbiyah? Or am I taking an approach with tarbiyah? Look, there's 3 common, very destructive approaches to tarbiyah that every mother or father needs to be wary of, and we need to be careful not to fall into. One of them, I will continue to exert maximum pressure to maintain authority. That's one approach to tarbiyah. What does that mean? I'm going to threaten if they disobey. I'm going to cut off financial support if they don't follow. I'm going to disown them if they don't accept the career or the person I want them to marry. I'm going to exert maximum pressure. Very failed approach in tarbiyah. What's the other approach in tarbiyah? That is absolutely destructive. I will let them experiment in haram, just so they could continue to trust me. I'm going to let them do whatever they want. One day they'll come back. Another toxic approach to tarbiyah. I will accept their girlfriend, their boyfriend. I will abandon any sense of accountability. So what? Because I don't want them to cut me off. I'm afraid. Right? Toxic approach to tarbiyah. Third approach. I don't have the time or capacity to be involved. I bought them a car. I put them in college. I put food on the table. And I'm malish da'wah. It's not my fault. Someone else's fault. They need to bear the responsibility. I did my job. I'm the money bank. Right? These are the 3 approaches to tarbiyah that I need to be very, very careful of. Brothers and sisters, the responsibility on our shoulders is immense. As adults, parents, and also as children. Because ultimately, everyone will carry their burden before Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment on how they chose to use their time in this dunya. Life gives us enough examples. Hey, look, this path isn't good for you. Even though it's compelling and interesting, it's not going to make you happy. Even though it's enticing, trust me, it won't lead to happiness. True happiness for the mu'min is with Allah. True happiness for the mu'min is with Allah. And I need to really invest myself in planning for my soul if I'm really going to experience true sa'adah, true happiness in this dunya and the akhirah. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this opportunity of free time this summer that we have as families an opportunity for us to really grow in our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, to really build with the iman within our hearts, to really develop within us a sense of responsibility and duty to everything that Allah Azza wa Jal put in our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better us. May Allah protect us and protect our children from all harms and all sources of corruption. And may Allah Azza wa Jal use us for goodness wherever we are. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma ighfir lana warhamna wa'afina wa'afu anna wa tajawaz an sayyi'atina. Allahumma ighfir li saghirina wa kabirina wa dhakarina wa unthana wa shahidina wa ghaibina. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإيمان ومن أمته منا فأمته على الإسلام. اللهم اجعل خير عمرنا آخرة واجعل خير عملنا خواتمة واجعل خير أيامنا يوما نلقاك فيه وأنت راض عنا. آمين آمين. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا يرحمني يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر. كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. جزاك الله خير شيخ أسامة. أسأل الله أن يبارك فيكم. Before leaving, we need every parent to register his children in the activities and the services of summer program in the masjid. We have many programs, so please be aware of these programs and services. We want your children to be a part of these services and spiritual programs. Very important, educational, spiritual, cultural. وبارك الله فيكم. سجلوا. Second, we want to support those who can't afford these services. Every child to be a part of these services need more than $350, but we will make inshallah support for these students 300 for those who are in need, who can't afford these services. So please go to the website of the masjid, go to the office and support 1 or 2 or 3 children of our children inshallah to benefit from these programs. 350 for every child. Jazakumullah khair. So please support 1 or more of our children. Don't and it is أو علم ينتفع به. When you support your children inshallah, our children, our community children inshallah, you will preserve them, you will protect them from being here or there. نسأل الله أن يحفظهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم احفظ أبناءنا وأبناء المسلمين يا رب العالمين. So please try to support more than 1 child. جزاكم الله خير. جزاك الله خير inshallah. Just you can say I support 1 child, 2 child as 2 children. So please support our children inshallah to be a part of these activities. These activities are very expensive and inshallah you will be rewarded for that. بارك الله فيكم.